Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolves, phantoms, zombies, gorgons, mad scientists, abominable snowmen. These are the monsters that they have created. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Ingrid Pitt, Veronica Carson, Oliver Reed, Madeline Smith, Barbara Shelley, Michael Gow, Hazel Court, Bartine Beswick. These are the people that faced the horrors. Jimmy Sangster, Terrence Fisher, Michael Carreras, Peter Sasty, John Elder, Evan Jones, Anthony Hines. These are the people who created the horrors behind Hammer Studios. Welcome to Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, your gateway into classic horror cinema, brought to you by Broken Lighthouse Pictures and Something Wicked Entertainment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our brand new podcast in which we delve deep into everything from the Hammer Studios, especially the 60s and 70s right now, but we do hope to get to some of the more modern day films as time goes along. But until then, we are going to stick to some of those other older classic movies, like today's movie that we're going to be talking about, which is Curse of the Werewolf. And to talk about this movie with me, I have the amazingly esteemed colleague, Jim Adams. And I want to thank you, Jim, for joining us on this episode.
Oh, yeah, 1961 Werewolf special, man. This is the only werewolf movie that Hammer Films ever made.
Which is always, well, you watch this film and you know why, but, you could have done something else.
I think they could have. I mean, they're one of their competition. This film, as a kid growing up, and I saw this in the very early 60s, it came in the theater 61, so it made it onto TV around 64, 65, somewhere around there. And I'm thinking I was about junior high school age when I actually saw it, because there was another station that ran the Hammer stuff. There was another one. There's a company called Amicus that tried to model themselves after Hammer started tailoring down. And this film gets confused a lot with a 1975 film called The Legend of the Werewolf that stars Peter Cushing. And the films are very similar because they were based on a book. This one is based on a book called The Werewolf of Paris, which John Elder, who is the producer, also Anthony Hines is his other name that he uses these two aliases. He couldn't afford the rights to the book in 1961. So all of a sudden they had to change everything. It's basically the same story, but instead of a werewolf in Paris, now you're in Spain, and and it's but pretty much a similar story. So if you watch The Legend of the Werewolf, it's almost identical. The setup's a little different, but that one actually, in 75, Amicus could afford to get the rights to the book, so their werewolf makes it into Paris. So, but I mean, as a kid, I'd always get them mixed up, and I go, okay, God, which one was Peter Cushing in? Who's out? Which one was Oliver Reed in and stuff? And so, for the longest time, I'd get them mixed up. Although I think Curse of the Werewolf is far superior to The Legend of the Werewolf.
Oh, really? I've heard
it's a much better movie.
I haven't seen it.
But I like them. I like them both. But Curse is a little stronger of a movie than Legend is.
Yeah, well, I saw this film definitely not when it came out, and not when I was growing up. I saw this movie for the first time maybe 10, 11 years ago. It's been since I've seen it. One of the reasons why I saw it is, one, it was a Hammer film, and two, I actually like Oliver Reed. The thing is, and I generally love werewolf movies too. But when I saw this film, I was a little let down at first because Oliver Reed doesn't show up for like half the movie.
Well, that's the kick on this thing is that I warn you guys, if you haven't seen it, we'll spoil everything. But the one thing I will spoil for you, not feel too bad about, is you don't see the werewolf until the very end. pretty much. I mean, but it's one of those that when I first saw this as a kid, I was wondering, when are we going to really see the werewolf? Well, you sort of almost see him and all that, but when what's the payoff? And it was like, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool payoff. So it was like it was always forgiven. It was like, okay, because the story is really engaging. Following this guy.
Well, the story
And
is very different from its other werewolf type of stories.
yeah, well, they had to change that too. I mean, because trying not to get sued by this guy that wrote Werewolf, and one of the big things about Curse of the Werewolf is that after watching the Universal Werewolf movie, the Wolfman, which I love, still one of my favorites. Um, you've got to be bitten by the wolf to get the curse of the pentagram and all that. They throw all that out the window because they couldn't afford to do it. So now they have the curse afflicts Oliver Reed's character in a different way. And I don't know if do you want to get into those details now?
Yes.
Or
No,
yeah.
no.
Well, basically, some of it had to do with the censors in Great Britain when they submitted the script. There's a beggar that we see in the very beginning of the movie who's begging for food at this very evil marquis that's just gotten married, and he's having his big wedding ceremony, his big wedding reception, and he just brutalizes this beggar, throws him in a cell. He's there forever. And that beggar was supposed to have been a werewolf, and it was in the original script. Oh. And then the jailer has this mute daughter, and they take care of this guy who's been locked up and forgotten about by the Marquis because he's he's like the Marquis de Sade or whatever. And after the jailer dies, the girl keeps taking care of him. This little mute gal keeps taking care of him. And then there's a scene where the Marquis gets mad at her and throws her in the cell with him, and he rapes her.
Yep.
The werewolf was supposed to be passed on through her, and the censors were like, okay, here's the deal with your script. You can have violence, you can have sex, but you can't have them both. So they had to make a decision what they're doing. So now the child that is born from this attack of this girl, which happens a little later on in the movie, is cursed because of that, not because he was bit. And then they add an additional little wrinkle, and I don't know if this was an actual an actual legend or whatever, but he was born on Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. And anyone born on Christmas Day, it's an offense to God, so he is cursed with the werewolf. So he got it from every direction. He was doomed to be a werewolf one way or the other. Although in the movie, it's never established that the beggar was a werewolf. That they don't even address. He's just a beggar who just gets brutalized by this Marquis, is left to die in this cell. Just totally forgotten.
Yeah, what happens to these characters is not very just. The beggar the beggar is one of the worst than even Oliver Reed's character, because he just going from town to town and just wants to survive.
That's it. Just wants some food.
And his Marquis' new wife.
Yeah.
Everyone in his court more or less just ridicule and make fun of this beggar. And beggar at first is doing it just to survive, and he's not really seeing how much he's being humiliated by these higher upper class people.
Yeah, they're just making a fool of him.
Yeah, they're just making a fool of him. And then push comes to shove, his wife, the Marquis' wife, actually takes pity on him to save him, more or less. And then what her husband ends up doing is throwing him in the dungeon.
Yeah,
forget about him. Like, dude,
well, he gets. It's funny. The beggar, if he'd kept his mouth shut, he would have been all right. They gave him food, they made him dance for the food and all that, made a total fool out of him, and then the Marquis like, okay, going to bed. It's wedding night, and everyone's, oh yeah. And of course, this guy turns around and goes, thank you, sir, or thank you, Marquis, or whatever he called him, and then says something about, you will have a great night or something like that. And the Marquis like, what do you mean by that? And then boom, he opens up that whole kettle of fish. Next thing you know, if you just shut up. He could have just gone. He could have just taken his food and gone. You know,
thrown at you and leave.
And it's funny. This guy, the actor that plays this beggar is named Richard Wordsworth, and he is actually related to the actual Wordsworth poet, the poet, famous poet from England. He's in a bunch of Hammer films, and he was in it. I think you guys did one of. Have you done Revenge of Frankenstein yet? I can't remember.
No.
But no, I think I'm signed up for that one, actually. He plays a character in Revenge of Frankenstein that hangs around this clinic that the Peter Cushing's character, Dr. Frankenstein, runs, and he's always getting into trouble, and he shoots his mouth off, and he's, big know-it-all and all that stuff. So perfect casting for him as the beggar, because he always plays characters like that. He always plays these seedy type characters in all the Hammer films that he plays in.
Well, of course, I'm going to assume that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast have probably seen this film. But if for you that probably do not, and you should, first of all, we're going to keep going on with the movie because we're going to assume that you've seen it. And what happens is that this beggar just stays in that little dungeon for a very long time. And like you said, the mute girl, who we don't ever really get a real name from at all because she can't speak, takes pity on him when she's a little bitty girl. And I think
I was going to say, I think they called her Yvonne, but I think that's the name of the actress actually. So
she doesn't really have a name. I've tried to look, like the beggar doesn't have a name. He's just,
I think it's just called the beggar. I mean, the jailer's daughter or something like that.
But she goes from being a little girl to growing up to be a young woman, still mute. And eventually she works her way out of the dungeon and into being a regular servant for the Marquis, who's this old, decrepit guy whose wife died much, much earlier. And he's just living his life within his own castle walls.
It's sort of implied that he might have been, well, he didn't kill her, but she was a really nice gal, and he's real evil, and she had real problems with that, and it shortened her life quite a bit.
Yeah.
She was pretty young when she died.
But this Marquis tries to have his way with the mute girl.
Oh, yeah.
And instead, the mute girl doesn't take his advances and ends up in the dungeon with she gets,
with the beggar. Well, she gets thrown in the same cell.
She gets thrown in the same cell. And then that's when all heck breaks loose, because even though the beggar has been living because of the mute girl, he sees the woman for the very first time, and he takes advantage of her, rapes her. And then the beggar dies. Yeah,
and of course the Marquis just it was all a big kick for his. He lets her back out the next day. By then it's too late. The damage has been done.
Well, yeah, because she goes up and she ends up killing the Marquis, and then running for her life outside the castle.
Right.
And then as the story unfolds, it kind of says that she's been out in living a wild life for a while.
Right, for quite a while, yeah. Almost like Romulus and Remus. Scenario,
before Senor, I think it's Alfredo,
Don Alfredo,
he finds her in the water, in the lake. She's like just half alive,
right? Half alive. She's
And so he takes her home with him because he's a well-to-do senor, and his servant Teresa is the only other person in his home, and they take this woman in, and even though they never know her name, they realize she's pregnant. And then, of course, she gives birth to a son,
Leon,
who because he's born on Christmas Day, he's bound to be it's a bad omen. And it's not the only bad omen. I like the fact that they use these bad omens to say that he's got
yes.
Because when they try and baptize him, the boils, the water, the baptismal water boils, and
it turns black almost. Thunderstorm, and all kinds of stuff.
It's visually stunning, even though
it is. It's a great scene.
Is not in this film, and this whole section like a good half of the movie before Oliver Reed is the Leon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we deal with young Leon for quite a while before
for
we do.
quite a while.
You know, the one thing about the baptism scene, it almost reminded me of, and I wonder if it influenced the people that made The Omen.
I thought about that too.
It reminds me a lot of the baptism scene in The Omen, except the little kid goes nuts. In this one, the kid doesn't react. It's just everything around him goes.
Mm-hmm. No, this is much more subtle than The Omen. So
very much so.
Anyone who's listening to this podcast, I have never been a fan of The Omen. I've always just thought that was it. Of all the classic horror films ever made, The Omen and the Amityville Horror are the most mediocre ones that I can think of. I am not a big fan of either one of those. And
I like the original. I didn't care for the ones that came after it.
You know what? I didn't care for The Omen, but I love Damien The Omen too, because that's much more brutal and killer. I love watching him kill people in the second one.
I think on the original one, not to get off on a tangent, but it was we'd gone. I was in college and we'd gone to see another movie, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and there was just this poster. You know, they always had the posters out, for the ones that were coming, and it was just a big black poster and just said on it, "The Omen."
The Omen.
And we're like, "What the hell is this?" And then there was a commercial. I mean, not a commercial, but a trailer promo for it before the movie, and that's basically all it did was The Omen. That's it, And so now we've got to go see the movie, and had no idea. I mean, again, if there'd been an internet, it would have been spoiled long ago. But so we're going into this movie a couple of weeks later to see it. And then when I realized it was an Antichrist thing, it's like, oh, this is cool, because it was the first movie I'd ever seen that dealt with that subject, except for maybe Rosemary's Baby.
I'm not saying, but
that's about the only one that I can think of that even got close to broaching it. So I guess that always sort of warmed that movie up for me just a little bit, because it was just such a good experience when we all saw it for the first time. But yeah, you're right. It has some issues.
My only issue is that I saw Damien the Omen 2 before I ever saw the first one.
Yeah, well, that would definitely color it. Yeah.
That would color it. I'm watching the second movie, and Damien's killing people left and right. And that first movie is like, oh.
Yeah, I was just getting, you're just learning how he becomes what he becomes.
Getting back to
this one, does the same thing. You've got little Leon, you got the baby. Yeah. You're not there with the baby for long. It jumps right to where he's about like maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere
around there. So he's a young adolescent.
Yeah, and strange things are happening.
Yeah, strange things are happening, and he has an incident where he leaves the house in the middle of the night, and he's killing. I think is it horses or cattle?
It was goats.
Thank you. I knew it was some type of cattle, something like that. So he kills some goats, and then
gruesomely. I mean, it's like he rips their throats out and drains them of blood.
And so the locals think it's a wolf.
Right.
Pepe. I think it's Pepe.
Pepe.
Mm-hmm. He's the one who's supposed to be protecting the farmers.
He's the watchman that the town has hired to keep wolves away. It's like, oops, he's sort of not doing his job.
Well, he's trying to do his job.
Well, he's looking for a wolf, but it wasn't really a wolf. But it was a wolf. But So.
But the funny thing is that he shoots the wolf. When he thinks he shoots the wolf the first time, and Leon's father, or stepfather, however you want to call it, Alfredo and Teresa realize that there's something going on because they take the bullet out of Leon.
Yeah, and they recognize the bullet. They recognize it's one of Pepe's bullets.
Takes it to Pepe's wife, and they realize it's Pepe's, and he thinks he's killing the wolf, and it's really he shot Leon in some other state. So Alfredo decides to bar up the windows in his room, and this plays in another scene later on. The bars up the window, and
it's my favorite scene in this whole movie.
Yeah, and so Leon can't get out the next full moon.
Yeah,
but we see him trying his damnedest to get out.
Oh, that is done so well. I mean, the first time I saw it was jolting.
Yeah,
because you don't really. I mean, he's putting the bars up on the window and stuff. You don't realize exactly what they're going to do. You just figure, maybe they'll cut to the bedroom and he's suffering, and No, this kid is at the bars and he tried
Yeah.
to bust out of this, and it's done so violently. I remember the first time I saw it, it was like smacked me right in the face. It's like, whoa!
Yeah.
And every time I saw the movie, because there'd be a little stretch of time between viewings where I'd see it, and I'd sort of forgot how impactful that scene was.
Mhm.
But every time it would just boom, and make me just sort of sit up. It was like, yeah, I mean, just this little kid just going
That's
nuts, like an animal, like a trapped animal. It was great.
Yeah, because it's a little kid doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
But at least Alfredo and Teresa realize there's something wrong with him. But
Yep.
they are told that from the love of a woman or family that could curb his evil or demonic.
Yeah, the priest, the local priest tells him
thank you.
that.
The priest. The priest tells me. I can't remember who it was, but and so
Love is the answer to everything.
yeah. So after that incident, there's no more incidences because now Teresa
Yeah.
and Alfredo understand exactly what is wrong with Leon, even if Leon doesn't know or understand it, and there's no reason for him to change again until until the time he leaves as a grown up. Now, before we do that, we also have to go back to Pepe because Pepe is very important in the story. Pepe does in fact kill a wolf with a silver bullet. At one point, he thinks that there's something more demonic or something more supernatural.
Yes, yes.
A wolf out there, so he's told to go out and he builds a silver bullet from his wife's silver cross.
Yeah, from her crucifix. Yeah,
crucifix. And so that's what he uses.
And I think he has a blessed. I think the bishop or something blesses it, or he goes through all these
the
motions.
Blessed. The crucifix was blessed, which is why.
Right.
Yeah. But he shoots the wolf with that bullet, and of course, at that time period, they take the bullet back out because it's easy to get to.
Oh yeah, you reuse them. Yeah,
he reused them. So he takes the bullet back out, but he's now seen as a hero because he killed the wolf that they all thought was killing the goats in town. And that's like the first half of the movie. Before Oliver Reed's Leon grows up to be Oliver Reed now.
And I love the kid that they cast for this is a ringer for Oliver Reed. He looks like a young Oliver Reed. It was amazing how they matched him up. You would swear you were looking, okay, how did they do this? They must have shot a young Oliver Reed and then waited 15 years and then completed the movie. I mean, he looks that close to being like a little mini Oliver Reed. He really is amazing.
Which is always amazing because it's Oliver Reed we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the thing is...
by the way, this is Oliver Reed's debut film, too.
Is it? Is it really his first film? Really?
This was his debut film.
I did not know it. See, I'm so familiar with some of his other movies that I went back to watch.
He did a ton of Hammer films, and that's how he got his start.
Oh wow!
Was through Hammer. So yeah, he would appear in several of them that you've got on your list.
Oh, nice. It'll be interesting. It'll be especially considering I've seen most of them at least once. Some of them I've seen twice. This one I've seen I think only twice now. For some reason I didn't own this one for a very long time, and so I just never saw it again after the first time I saw it. And then I got it on a box set of a whole bunch of Hammer.
Right. Yeah, that Hammer box set.
Yeah, because that's how I was able to watch so many Hammer films that I had never been able to see before. Because unfortunately, everyone who's listening, Hammer films are not really streaming for free like a lot of others.
No, a lot of them. It's hard to find them for free. It really is.
They are scattered everywhere. But thankfully there are some great companies out there producing some very high end Blu-rays.
There's been some great restorations. It's funny, and this one, this one sort of felt like Universal had their like top four. They had Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, and Wolfman. Their big four. Hammer did too. They had their Frankenstein, they had their Dracula, they had their Mummy. And this was included on their original one, the Curse of the Werewolf. And this is the only werewolf picture they would make. But that they were all considered their main four, like Universal's. But this one lost money. This one did not do well when it was first released for some reason. And nobody really can explain why. It's the first werewolf movie that was made in color. And, but that's Hammer. I mean, Hammer, their monster films were all done pretty much in color. And
Well,
that's one thing that distinguished him from a lot of the others
this
that were out there. But I don't know. I never could understand how this movie didn't do well.
this one's
I mean,
not
it did in home video.
exciting as the Frankenstein or
I
Dracula.
guess so. I guess that's it. It was more of a character study
This is a
type
character,
thing.
yeah. This is a big character movie.
Yeah.
Because even when we get to Oliver, the older Leon, that
Right.
played by Oliver Stone, he's almost like just coming out of just experiencing out of college, really.
Yeah.
He leaves the nest, his home,
Going out to get work and
go get
become
work
a
and find
man.
his own way. And unfortunately, that opens him up to other influences.
Oh yeah.
And of course, being away from his family, that kind of prompts him when he has his more like sexual awakening, I guess it is. Because
Oh yeah. No, that's yeah. He's got a coworker that says, "I'm going to show you what we do." Yeah, when it's payday, man, we're going to have some fun.
yeah, and, which is very interesting because
Yeah.
a lot of this second part of the film is like only within a couple days, really. It's not a long stretch of time.
No, and again, and the area, where his, we'll call them his foster family or whatever, his foster parents, don't really live that far from the town that he's working in.
Mm-mm.
They're almost like in the suburbs or something. I mean, it's a very short distance.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, and he's more in the industrial part of the town or whatever.
Yeah.
And his family was out there in the country part of it, because he does have a time where he goes back to see them and whatever. It's not like he's going to another country or something. It's just
no.
It's a little hop, skip, and a jump.
No, he's getting work.
Yeah, he's working in a vineyard, or not a vineyard, for a winery.
Yeah, kind of a winery. Yeah, I was like, what part? And we don't see him do much of his actual job.
No, he's just putting the wine in the bottles and then the labels on the bottles, and that's it.
Yeah, what essentially happens is he gets into town and he meets or he runs into, what's her name? Christina.
Christine, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christina, who almost runs him over, and that eventually becomes his love interest in the story. But
and of course she is betrothed to one of the richest idiots in town. I mean, he's a real jerk.
Yeah. No, that's how it plays in these type of romances. She likes the almost penniless.
Nice triangle going there.
Yeah. Always a love triangle, dude. Always a love triangle.
Oh, and every Hammer seems to always have to put a triangle in there. You see them all the time.
It keeps those people who want to see the romance and like the more risque stuff intact. But but after working at, I guess, his first week there, because it's payday.
Yes.
Big party, and his coworker takes him out to this big party in which, they're more or less going on what we would call a double date in this day and age.
Right.
Because he forsakens his date throughout the entire night because it's a full moon.
Yeah.
And he's not feeling very well, and he actually doesn't know why he's not feeling very well.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. But he's not feeling very well.
Yeah.
And another woman who's been eyeing him the whole night, which I don't know if I ever got her name.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah,
Can't speak of her right now. Yeah, she's just a very small character in there.
But this other lady, more like a harlot, I guess, because she obviously.
Oh, they all were. Yeah, I mean, it was a brothel that he went to. That's where he got all.
Is that what it was?
It was an actual brothel. Yeah.
Oh, I can think it was just like the local bar. But you could be right, because
I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it was an actual brothel.
She hooks up with him.
Yeah.
And she takes him up to her bedroom, which is a floor above. So yeah, it probably was a brothel.
Oh yeah.
But before they can do anything, the wolf comes out.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I mean,
and then of course,
it fires them all up.
I
mean, love might keep him from being a werewolf, but we're not dealing with love here. We're
not
dealing
with
lust now.
Lust. And he doesn't lust for her either. And what happens is he ends up killing her, but it doesn't end there. He escapes from there, and then he kills his best friend.
Yeah, his buddy happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just happened to be around when he's a wolf, and that's not a good friend to have there.
No, not at all. The film could have just done like sparsed out the killings, but nah. Nah, he kills another
Now,
person.
this is sort of a short movie. It's just right at an hour and a half, so they got to squeeze in a bunch of stuff here.
Oh yeah, yeah, because they try to
So,
make the
I
story.
mean, yeah, when you get to grown up Leon, it moves into
Moves fast.
overdrive.
It moves fast, and
Yeah,
Leon ends up finding himself the next morning back at his original home
right.
with his father and Teresa, and he's broken in to his room from the bars that prevented him from breaking out
Yeah,
when he was a kid. And Alfredo sees that. He sees
yeah.
what's happened to the bars, and he realizes what's going on real fast.
I think he always suspected. Well, I mean, I knew it when he was a little kid. He knew.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He knew back
he
then.
knew.
Like,
I don't know if Teresa ever really accepted it until later, but the father, the stepfather, he definitely knew. He knew what was going on.
yeah,
The priest, I think, also knew what
yeah.
was going on. So, yeah, now when they hear about these two people dying, it's like, uh-oh, that's not good.
And then it becomes a thing where, well, I can't remember all the details, but
Well, he is, while, before all of this happens, he does develop a relationship with Christine.
off screen at some
And
point.
yeah, they have to keep it quiet because she's betrothed to like one of the richest guys in town, or from one of the richest families in town. Like I said, he's a real jerk. So they're having, and he's keeps trying to tell her, let's leave, let's just leave, because it's like he knows that he doesn't feel like a wolf when she's around. He calms down, he's fine. Which is sort of like what the priest was saying when he was a little kid, that the love and stuff. So he's getting that from Christina. And she finally does agree that she's going to run away with him. But then all the killings and stuff start happening again, and that sort of screws everything up.
Well, that's when I think they take the police come and take
Yeah.
Leon in because they find his clothes.
Right, they find the bloody clothes.
And they take him in.
He's a suspect. He had been their suspect for a while, but that sort of proved it right there.
And so he's now in jail after
Right.
Christina is supposed to have left him to go get her stuff so she could get
Yes, right.
so they can
right.
leave. But in the jail cell, now the priest and his father are trying to convince the magistrate to allow the priest to take over care of.
Yeah. They're going to send him to they were going to send him to a monastery.
Yeah, they were going to send him to a monastery.
Figured they might be safe there.
Yeah, I'm assuming they had some type of thing, training, or reason to be able to fix Leon, or at least keep his werewolfism at bay.
I would say, yeah, it might be pretty safe.
Or lock him up. Well, they probably were to just lock him up during the full moon and say, okay.
Right, exactly, during a 3-day period there or whatever.
But the funny thing about that whole sequence is that they almost convinced the magistrate to do that until Christina finally reveals her true feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Leon, and not only to the magistrate but also to her father and to the guy who he's betrothed to, which is quite funny because she forsakes them to go after Leon. Go after Leon because that's her true love. She forsakes her entire family and fortune and everything to do that. And then, of course, when she gets there to say that she has no clue what Leon's talking about with his curse and everything, she says, "Oh, you're all a bunch of liars. You're going to stand trial," and that's going to be it. Despite the fact that the priest and Alfredo have warned him, if you don't give him over to us, I can only say there's going to be more bloodshed.
Yeah, this jail cell's not going to hold him.
And lo and behold, that evening that's exactly what happens. Leon changes, and he goes on a killing spree within the town.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which is actually quite impressive because up until that point, like you said, the audience hasn't seen what he looks like as a werewolf.
No, not yet. And and the other thing that makes this the pathos of this really intense is that Leon has already gotten to the point here when they throw him in the cell and stuff where he says, "Just kill me. just kill me.
Yeah.
That's I don't want this anymore. So they say, oh no, you got to stand trial. It's just
Yeah.
you don't have to do any of that. Just kill me. That's what I need to have happen here.
Yeah.
I'm not denying anything. I did it. And I mean, I think he's given up any hope of being with Christina at that point, or whatever. So when the wolf comes out, he's got nothing to lose. I mean, the wolf got nothing to lose now. It's just like he just goes on a tear.
Yeah, which is very interesting because I love the way that they do the way the wolf is more or less using the rooftops and the
just like
the
an
houses
animal
to get
would.
around.
Yeah.
He's not on the ground doing this shit. He's up on the
No, it's just like a trapped animal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like the way that they did that, and he goes through and he kills a couple people on this rampage, but when he goes to the rampage, this is the first time where everybody sees him.
Now we see him. Yeah, we see him the same time that everybody else in the movie sees it.
Yeah, and not just our main characters, but the entire town,
the whole town. Yeah.
When Leon is doing his rampage through the city, everybody in town is there to see it. It's like almost like a lynching type sequence.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They're ready to say, "Hey, you want to die? Yeah, we'll help you out."
Now, what we have skipped over a little bit is the fact that Alfredo at one point is told to go see Pepe, who has the silver bullet from.
He gets the silver bullet. Yep.
He goes there to get the silver bullet. So Alfredo is armed with a single silver bullet.
Just one, that's it.
Which is, quite amazing. But I can't say much about it because that's used in a lot of werewolf movies.
I mean, the whole idea is that, silver is pure, represents a godliness type thing. And, it doesn't matter where you hit them. Just when you get them, it's just going to kill them.
Yeah.
Just the fact that the silver's in them. That's all it takes to kill them. So, I love the makeup. I love the makeup on the werewolf in this. I really do. I mean, Roy Ashton said he was influenced by Jack Pierce's Wolfman makeup. Of course, they, like with Hammer and Frankenstein, they couldn't copy it exactly, so they had to do their variation of it. But I really liked his touch on it.
Okay.
I thought it was a pretty cool looking makeup. The first time I saw it as a kid, it was like, I like this werewolf. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Okay.
I actually wish I'd seen this movie as a kid because I would have probably loved it more.
You would have, yeah. Just
I would have loved this movie more than I do now.
Probably.
Because, when we're younger, we take to these movies like nobody's business, and we end up watching them for like 20, 30 times, and then they become part of an influence on how we grow up and appreciate these type of movies later.
And especially a movie like this that really builds and builds and builds, and you're waiting to see the werewolf, and so many of those that we watched as a kid would build, and then they would not deliver.
Yeah.
Then you'd finally say, I sat through this to watch this, this horrible makeup, but not this one. This was like, oh man, that is cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You delivered. Okay.
Yeah. They delivered in two ways. One, they delivered in showing that werewolf makeup, and it was very impressive. And the fact that you're watching this whole town wanting to lynch the werewolf.
Yeah.
And what happens? He gets trapped in a bell tower,
right?
Which is a very interesting place to get trapped.
Yep.
And while the bells are ringing and distract,
they tell the guy to go ring the bells.
they ring the bells. They distract the werewolf, and of course, Alfredo shows up with a silver bullet and has to kill him.
Yeah.
He shoots him, and then of course, the great thing about this is once he's shot, Leon doesn't return to human form. He just stays a werewolf.
No, and it ends very quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing about a lot of these Hammer films is once the movie's over, the credits roll.
It's over. Yeah, they don't screw around. They
don't screw, and the movies are already short to begin with, and they don't screw around nothing. The movie ends, boom. Credits rolling. You don't even know what happens to any other character.
They don't have big budgets, so they can't really mess around too much. But I couldn't get exact figures on it. They're very hard to find. They didn't do much tracking of box office in 1961, so it was hard to find anything on that. In fact, there was nothing to find on that. And I don't know why. Usually, I can get budget information on that. I'm going to assume This one was probably like maybe 200,000 or something. It was really considered a low budget film when it came out.
I don't know anything about
And
him.
because one of the reasons also that they moved to Spain instead of France is it was cheaper because they had all these sets that were built for a movie that they were going to shoot about the Spanish Inquisition. And the church raised holy hell about it, saying, we will ban this. And they said, oh, screw it. Okay, we're just not going to make the movie. So then when this movie comes up, they go, hey, we got all of these sets, these Spanish sets. Let's just use them. And, that a combination of that and not having to worry about the copyright stuff with the book and all that. But they had to cut all kinds of corners to make this. But I thought they did well. I mean, because I thought the film looks good. The makeup's great. The costuming and stuff is great. Of course, the acting is always top drawer in these films. And Terrence Fisher's one of the best directors they had.
Yeah, I think in a previous episode I talked about the fact that I studied Terrence Fisher in college, but for some reason I didn't watch this film of his in college. I didn't watch this film until much later, and I wish I could remember the title of the book that focused on a lot of these British directors who did these Hammer films. That's the reason why a huge chunk of this book was about Terrence Fisher. And so I knew a lot about what he'd done and the movies he'd done, but this was not a film of his that I wrote about.
Well, at this time, they pretty much had three. They had, Terrence Fisher. They had Freddie Francis, who was an excellent cinematographer. And he took over, did some of the directing chores. And some of my favorite Hammer films that Terrence Fisher didn't direct were directed by Freddie Francis. I think he's a very underrated director. He doesn't get all the notoriety that Terrence did. And then Jimmy Sangster, who wrote a lot of the scripts, and he was an incredible writer, and he directed quite a few Hammer films that later on in the late 60s and the early 70s. And I liked his work quite a bit as well. So, but they handled the majority of the ones that came out.
I did not do many of his films in my early studies. If I tell people the people I studied, I studied Terrence Fisher and James Wells. And,
James Wells,
Sam Peckinpah and Samuel Fuller. Those are the ones I kind of.
Samuel Fuller is an interesting guy to study. Yeah, very unique director.
I watched a lot of their films.
I've seen a lot of Sam Fuller's, and Peckinpah's. Yeah.
There's still films of them of these directors I had not seen. Yeah, because with early 2000s. Good God, the late 1990s. Because I graduated in 2000, so the 1990s when there wasn't streaming, and Anchor Bay was like the premium.
That's where you had to find them usually. Yeah,
they just didn't produce everything out there. Yeah. Really hard to find some of these movies.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but a lot of them went out of print very quickly.
So, most of them are UK films. So unless they had been distributed by Warner Brothers, it was kind of hard to find a lot of these.
Hammer was lucky; they got a deal with Warner Brothers early on, and then they also got a deal with Seven Arts, and they had an American connection. There was also Anglo-American distributors, which handled some. They handled a lot of the other British films, but Hammer was pretty much. Well, you'll notice most of the Hammer films say Seven Arts or UA or one of those. I think they switched from Warner to UA in the latter years. But so they were always very lucky. They always had an American connection, all the way back from the beginning with Horror of Dracula.
Yeah, but even some of those were freaking hard to find back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, they were. I mean, if it wasn't for VHS, it was almost, because I remember CBS Late Night was about the only one after a while when I was later on in high school and stuff that even showed them on TV. They weren't in any of the packages that a lot of the TV stations got to show monster movies or sci-fis, like The Son of Shock and the Shock Theater package and the Columbia one and the one that came out from Allied Artists. Those are for the real grade B ones. and stuff. But CBS Late Night was a godsend because a lot of these Hammer films that I saw in the theater a couple of times on television with a few stations that showed them. Now finally I had a venue that I could go to and check them out. It was like it was a Friday night show, if I remember, late night Friday night show, where they would show their. Or I think maybe they ran it more than once during the week, but it was like an 11:30 movie and you could usually catch a lot of Hammers there. Until video cassettes came out, and then thank God, that was just like, now you can own them. I can watch them anytime that you want.
You could, but they were still Hammer films. So
yeah,
even though I bought a lot of VHS films, those were still hard to find.
Oh yeah.
Or they were expensive. One of the two.
I had to find like mail order books. Because this is still, I know, folks, it's really ancient days. No internet, but there were some like Movies Are Us type books, these big encyclopedic type books where you could order them by mail, and boy, I lived for those things, because usually they would have a lot of stuff that you couldn't find.
No, I used to use, and this is going back, guys.
There's one of Movies something, I can't remember, Movies Inc. or something like that I got a lot of stuff through.
They used to have, so one of these, I can't remember which one it was, used to run ads in the back of the Fangoria magazine.
Yes. Those guys, yep.
I used to order the catalog from them and then order the movies from the catalog that they sent.
I think it's Movies Inc. If I remember it was a big book, and they would send you, you'd write them, and then they would send you the catalog, and you had to do everything by snail mail, but it was great.
Oh my God!
I got most of my VHS collection through like 2 or 3 of those kind of companies.
Oh, same here, dude.
Especially for the really hard to find stuff.
Yeah,
the cult stuff was really hard to find, and there was a couple that Something Weird Video.
Oh my!
And they're still around. They do DVDs and stuff now, but I got a ton of movies from them.
Yeah. I still have my Herschel.
Yeah, the Herschel Gordon stuff. They had all of that stuff.
So, yeah, we are kindred spirits.
Some of the stuff that I can't talk about on Monster Attack.
That's why you guest on this show.
That's what I do, and we mentioned it on Monster Attack. Say, okay, now if you want to hear me talk about these other movies. The ones I talked, once I started seeing later on in life, because someone asked me why I didn't like slasher films, and I said, I didn't say I didn't like slasher films. It's just, that's not what Monster Attack does. I said, there's other podcasts that do that, and I talk on those all the time. So,
yeah, I know. And as everyone,
if it's a monster movie or whatever, quote unquote, I'll watch it, man.
As you're listening to our podcast, as you realize we've gone through the whole film, but we've kind of digressed.
Oh yeah, we always do.
We always digress because that's one of the great things about talking about movies like this. We digress to other conversations.
That's right.
And then we bring it back home because Hammer, as the whole conversation me and Jim has been talking about, Hammer for a while, Hammer films were hard to find. They were inconsistent on their releases, and that's why I never saw any of these movies in the order that they were released. I watched a lot of their movies out of order completely. I was saved by Anchor Bay because Anchor Bay produced copies of the Gorgon that I've seen. The Gorgon.
Yeah, Gorgon was real hard to find back in the 70s, and so it was really hard.
I was a hardcore Anchor
and movies
Bay
like The Reptile and Plague of the Zombies.
Anchor Bay produced these clamshell versions, pristine, screen versions of these on VHS, and they were amazing and immaculate.
Yeah.
That's how I got to see my Hammer films at first. That's how I got to see it. And those were all VHS copies.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, I mean, Plague of the Zombies, I think that the first time I did see that was, and we're going to be talking about that later on, I think was on VHS. I think that's the first time I knew about it.
Yep.
It's a legendary tape among people who are Hammer fans, but it was just very hard to find.
Yeah, I kind of wish
theaters weren't showing it. Even the movie theaters that specialize in older films, like on midnight shows or whatever. It's and the TV stations weren't running it. Even like CBS Late Night, I don't think ever ran that one. And it's a fun movie. Well, Reptile too. That was real. They were both made about the same time, and, very hard to find.
Yeah, and just for you guys that know and can remember the really, we kind of date ourselves now, but the video store days.
Yeah.
Most video stores did not carry a lot of the Anchor Bay titles because they were reissued.
No, the early days, no. It took a while for that to expand out.
They didn't a lot. And so when Anchor Bay would produce their movies, the video stores wouldn't carry these necessarily unless you were probably a mom and pop store. And so the only way to get them is to buy them.
Yes, that's right.
And so that's how I had an extensive collection of Anchor Bay titles back then. I think I've tried to buy most everything they had, and I wish I
think it was when there was a franchise that came out called Media Play. You might remember that.
I remember Media Play.
I probably, out of the 1,500 to 2,000 titles that I had in my film collection that were on VHS, I would say probably 3/4 of those came from Media Play. I would have the weekends off at the job I worked, and on Friday, after I got off work, and it was a third shift job, so it was actually early Friday morning when I was off. Mm-hmm. I would go to a place called Central Park, get a couple of hamburgers, and drive down to Media Play, and that was my routine every Friday. It was payday, and a good chunk of my paycheck went to Media Play. Yeah, because they had the tapes that I had a really hard time finding.
Yeah, they
Hammer was a lot of them.
Everything, and the great thing about Media Play is you can request them to order certain.
Yes, and they would order them for. Yeah, they were easier to get through than a lot of the Blockbuster stores and some of that. They just they weren't really cool on ordering them. They wanted you to wait until they were used, and then they would sell them to you used, but. You rolled the dice a little bit because you never really knew what kind of, it was a tape. You didn't know what kind of condition it might have been in. If people have been abusing it while they were renting it,
Oh, yeah.
And I remember getting a couple that way, and they just didn't play well at all. They were just in bad shape. Tape gets stretched out from so many airplays, and just, they degrade or whatever. So.
Oh my God! So,
brings back memories, boy. I'll tell you.
Yeah, you know what? We're talking about the 70s in terms, 60s, 70s, 50s in terms of Hammer films, and a lot of people didn't get to see them until they did reach VHS, and eventually DVD. And like I said, that's the way it is. We have to think now that a lot of this stuff is on some type of streaming service.
Yeah.
You have to pay for it off of Amazon. It's also
sometimes you have to either rent or buy them, like on an Amazon or I think Apple TV does it now. And
Fandango has.
Fandango is the new one that it's almost like a personal video store. You can either buy or rent.
So,
and I find myself buying more digital copies now. One, if I get wiped out by a tornado, it's not going to destroy my movie collection.
Ain't that the truth?
But I mean, and I'm always thinking like, geez, is it going to be there if I want to go watch it? But yeah, it works. Yeah, you just says, yep, go ahead and watch it. You want it.
Yeah. All right. Any other words about Curse of the Werewolf?
I still think it's up there as one of the better werewolf movies made during this time period. It would be several years before American Werewolf in London came out, which I think all of a sudden was like rewrote the game again on werewolf movies and set a new bar. So, and then the Howling came out and some of those, but there was a long stretch there where they made some werewolf movies, but they were god awful.
Werewolf movies and their popularity with general audiences has never been kind.
I can understand it because I was like one of the first 10 monster movies I ever saw in my life was a movie called The Werewolf. It was more of a science fiction movie than a monster movie, but it did deal with these mad scientists that made this guy turn into a werewolf. Oh. And I loved it, man. I've watched that movie so many times, I got it just about memorized now. It's one of my favorites because I mean I was barely in second grade when I saw it for the first time, and that's when I got. I mean, I saw that before I saw the Wolfman. So that got me into the whole werewolf thing. So I don't know. I don't get it. They've always been a fair. The very first Aurora model kit I ever built was a Wolfman model kit. Yeah, it was the very first one I made. And so I've always had an affinity for the werewolf stuff. Then closely followed by vampires because I've always had an affinity for them.
Yeah, vampires are easier to sell. Werewolves.
Yeah,
I can only think of really Wolf as being one that was financially successful.
Wolf was an incredible movie. Yes,
and they keep trying and trying, and nothing ever clicks, and it's unfortunate because I love werewolf movies. In fact, I love this movie, and I actually love the more recent Wolfman that was done by Lee Winnell, who did the recent Invisible Man. And I know that didn't get.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I liked that one, and I wasn't real crazy about his Invisible Man. It was okay, but for some reason it just didn't do anything for me. Now, if I go back and I've only watched it once. If I go back and watch it again, I may change my mind. That happens quite a bit. Because sometimes you don't know what kind of frame of mind you're in when you see these things. Yeah. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it streaming. But his Wolfman I really liked. Yes. Yeah. And I like the one that Guillermo del Toro did. The one with Anthony Hopkins.
Guillermo, no, you were talking about... Guillermo del Toro didn't do that one.
It's the other guy. I always do that. I always do. Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro.
I always mix those guys up, and I know, and they're totally two different people. But that one, I really, really liked that one. There's a couple of scenes in there that I was like, wow, that is so cool. And that was the one that was supposed to launch the new Universal Monster package, and it didn't quite catch on. That and the Mummy. The Brendan Fraser one. It just didn't quite do what they wanted, so they're going back and trying it all over again with a new release of monster films again.
Mummy movies are the only ones that have been financially successful. I
know. Yeah, it's interesting.
The Tom Cruise revamp of the Mummy.
Yes, I know.
Money. It was a disappointment because it didn't go as high as they would have liked and open this whole new.
No, but it made them a ton of money.
And then we'll see another Mummy movie next year, I believe.
Yeah, that's going to be part of this universe that they're doing. Yeah.
Whatever universe they're going to try and build now. But that being said, it is a shame that Hammer never decided to do a sequel to this because I think it's a really strong entry into their.
Yeah, I could have seen a follow up to this. Yeah.
I would have been curious to figure out how they would go about a sequel, but since Leon does
the most obvious one would be he was having a relationship with Christine.
Yeah.
And that somehow she was pregnant at the time he died, and she gives birth to a little werewolf. And then they tradition, call it, son of Leon or whatever. But I mean that would be one storyline that they could probably pursue.
Give
it a different hook, but I mean, just there is a possible connection there where they could
a little baby werewolf terrorizing the town. I haven't seen that one yet. You laugh. We've seen Teen Wolf.
Oh no, I know. Well, hell, Larry Cohen did Killer Babies, so I mean, anything's go. You
gotta see Toddler Wolf.
Yeah. So I mean, no, they could have. I mean, there was that possibility, but The business side of it is, well, if we didn't make money on the first release, I guess it's not worth doing again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's unfortunate because it did develop a following down the road, and it became very profitable after that.
Oh, well, as we do in more episodes of the show, we'll realize that a lot of the Hammer films didn't get sequels, but we wish they had because in so many different directions with some of these films.
Yeah, the only ones that did it was Dracula and Frankenstein, where they did full franchises with those two, but they didn't really do that with the others at all.
Yep. So. All right, so we're at that time now, Jim, where we're going to sit back and we're going to rate the movie between 1 to 5 stars, 1 being horrible, 5 stars being amazing. Where on the spectrum would you put this movie?
I think Curse of the Werewolf put about a 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's It does have a couple of issues, but nothing real serious. But I think it's still a very entertaining film, a really great character study, very well made for a low budget film, and I give it a 3.5, which is, for me, that's a pretty good score.
I ended up giving it a 4. I actually enjoyed this movie more than I would have liked when I would have thought, because of the fact. Yeah, no, I was about to say the wrong thing there, wasn't I?
I was close to giving it a 4, but I was just wavering a little bit.
I give it a 4 because there's so much built on with character and trying to do something completely different.
Yeah.
With
that's one thing I love about the film. You're right.
And there's not another one like this out there.
No, not at all.
This was doing its own thing. And even though Oliver Reed doesn't show up for the first hour, there is so much story with all the other characters that is a build up to his story.
Oh, he dominates the movie. I mean, when you think of, after you've seen the movie, that's all you think about is his stuff.
Yeah, even though
that kid was really good, but I mean, it's like, yeah, he takes over the story, really.
Yeah.
Does.
But I really do enjoy this film, and I do like the fact that there's a lot of build up before you actually get a good payoff at the end.
It's a great payoff.
What doesn't happen in most movies? Most of the time, you get all this great stuff beforehand, and you are let down by the ending. And with this film, I do not believe you are let down at all.
No, I don't think so either. No, the payoff is excellent on this thing.
So that's where I put it. So with that, I want to thank you, Jeff, for joining us on Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors.
And I want to thank you for not recording this on the night of a full moon. I was getting a little worried about that. So
I probably wouldn't be able to, because my kids would probably be turning into wolves themselves and destroying everything in the house.
Oh, they would have. Yeah, I know your kids. Yeah.
You did, my kids. With that, I want to thank you, Jim, for joining us on Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors. From everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment and Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, we want to wish you all a pleasant day. Make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube, and make sure to check out our other sister and brother podcast, Conversations in Horror, the original podcast, as well as our Conversations in 4Color, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. I want to wish you a pleasant day and keep watching for a full moon. Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures and Something Wicked Entertainment podcast. It is hosted by Kevin L. Powers, original music provided by Dusty Ellison, produced and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Our executive producer is Kelly A. Inoka. This podcast is produced in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors is part of the Conversations in Horror podcast franchise and is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures. No part of this program can be used without express permission from Broken Lighthouse Pictures.